The bright screens in mission control flickered as John Carter adjusted his headset. Another quiet night shift at NASA, monitoring deep space signals. Nothing unusual ever happened during his watch, until now. A strange pattern cut through the background noise. John leaned forward, his fingers flying across the keyboard. This wasn't random. The signal repeated with perfect precision. "Sir," John called to his supervisor, "you need to see this." Within hours, the signal was being analyzed by experts worldwide. Within days, they had their answer. Something, was trying to talk to Earth. The message contained mathematical sequences, atomic structures, and finally, instructions for building a more advanced communications device. The world's nations pooled resources, constructing the device in record time. When they activated it, screens around the world lit up with the image of a being unlike anything humans had seen before. Tall, with iridescent skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. "I am High Lord Zarvex of the Galactic Hegemony," the being announced in perfect English. "We have observed your planet for some time. How fortunate you are that we have decided to welcome you into our empire." People celebrated in the streets. First contact. Humanity wasn't alone. But Susan Ward, director of Earth Defense Initiative, watched with narrowed eyes from her Pentagon office. "I don't like his tone," she muttered to her aide. 3 days later, Zarvex addressed Earth again. This time, his true intentions became clear. "Your technology is laughably primitive," he said with what appeared to be a smirk. "Your spacecraft couldn't outrun our waste disposal units. Your weapons would barely scratch our hull paint." The alien displayed images of massive ships, each larger than Earth's biggest cities. "The hegemony requires resources and labor. Earth will provide both. You will build tribute ships according to our specifications. You will mine your planet for materials we need. In return, we will not exterminate your species." World leaders gathered at the United Nations for an emergency session. Panic spread as hegemony scout ships appeared in orbit, confirming that this was no hoax. "They're scanning everything," said Alan Frost, former Navy engineer now advising the president. "Our military bases, power plants, communications, they're mapping it all." On the 5th day, a smaller ship landed on the White House lawn. Commander Krell, a military officer of the hegemony, stepped out with 6 armed guards. "Your formal surrender, please," Krell said, extending a tablet-like device to the president. As cameras broadcast worldwide, the president signed. Humanity was officially under alien rule. That night, Susan Ward didn't go home. Instead, she descended into a secure bunker beneath the Pentagon. 20 people waited there, top scientists, military strategists, and intelligence officers from a dozen countries. "They think we're beaten," Susan said, looking around the room. "Good, let them think that." She activated a screen showing plans already in motion before first contact, Project Phantom. "For years, we've been developing stealth technology for defense purposes," she explained. "Not just radar evading, but something more advanced. Quantum field manipulation that makes objects virtually undetectable." Dr. Eric Mason, lead physicist on the project, stood up. "It was theoretical until last year. Now we have working prototypes, small ones. Can we scale it up?" asked Peter Simmons, an admiral with decades of experience. "Given time and resources, yes," Eric replied. "But we need both." Susan nodded. "We'll give the hegemony what they want, on the surface. We'll build their tribute ships, mine their materials. But underneath, we build our own fleet," Peter finished. "One they can't see coming." Lisa Dunbar, who had designed underground facilities for the military, spread out a map. "I've identified potential locations, far from population centers, where we can construct in secret." "This is treason against the hegemony," said one official nervously. "No," Susan replied firmly. "This is survival. They mock our technology today. Let's see if they're still laughing when our stealth fleet decloaks." As they spoke, more hegemony ships entered Earth orbit. The occupation had begun. 5 years passed under the watchful eyes of the hegemony. Massive alien ships hovered over major cities as constant reminders of who was in charge. Humans worked in mines and factories, extracting resources and building tribute vessels to hegemony specifications. Commander Krell supervised Earth's compliance from his base in what was once the United Nations building. He took particular pleasure in his monthly inspections of production facilities. "Your output is down 7% from last month," Krell said, reviewing figures on his tablet as he walked through a shipyard near Seattle. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of displeasure. "We had equipment failures," Alan Frost explained, walking beside the alien. "Parts are wearing out faster than expected." After the invasion, Alan had volunteered to work with the aliens. Many called him a traitor, but Susan Ward knew better. Alan was their best source of information, carefully cultivating Krell's trust while feeding intelligence back to the resistance. "Fix it," Krell ordered, "or workers will face reduced rations." Alan nodded submissively. "Of course, Commander. We live to serve the hegemony." Later that night, Alan drove to what appeared to be an abandoned mining complex in the Rocky Mountains. After passing through 7 security checkpoints, he descended a mile below the surface. The elevator doors opened to reveal a hive of activity. Where the hegemony expected to find depleted mines, humans had built their most advanced research facility. Deep enough that alien scans couldn't penetrate, they worked day and night on Project Phantom. Lisa Dunbar met him at the entrance. "You're late." "Krell was being thorough today," Alan replied. "But I managed to get this." He handed her a small device he had stolen from the alien ship. Lisa smiled. "Dr. Mason will be pleased." They walked through the underground complex. Hundreds of scientists and engineers worked on various aspects of the stealth program. Some analyzed alien technology, others developed Earth's countermeasures. In the main chamber, a prototype ship hung suspended in a massive cavern. Unlike the bulky tribute ships they built for the hegemony, this vessel was sleek and angular, designed to slip through space undetected. Dr. Eric Mason and his team surrounded a worktable covered with components. Kate Palmer, a quantum physicist who had joined the project 3 years ago, looked up as Alan approached. "Is that what I think it is?" she asked, eyeing the device in Lisa's hand. "Hegemony sensor module," Alan confirmed. "Straight from Krell's personal shuttle." Eric took the device carefully. "This could be the breakthrough we need. Their detection systems have been giving us trouble." "How's the shield coming?" Alan asked. Kate sighed. "We can make objects invisible to their standard scanners, but their quantum resonance detectors still pick up traces. This might help us understand how they work." Admiral Peter Simmons joined them, reviewing progress reports on a tablet. "The first full-size ship needs to be operational in 18 months. The hegemony is getting suspicious about resource allocation." "We'll make it work," Eric promised. On the surface, Earth continued to play the part of the defeated planet. In the Norwegian mountains, humans dutifully constructed a massive mining operation under hegemony supervision. The aliens never realized that for every ton of minerals sent to their ships, another ton went down secret elevators to underground factories. Near the old Kennedy Space Center, the hegemony watched as humans built tribute vessels to their exact specifications. They didn't notice that certain components were modified slightly, or that workers memorized alien technology to reproduce later. Susan Ward coordinated it all from a mobile command center, never staying in one place for long. Today, she sat in a basement in Chicago, reviewing progress with her team via secure channels. "The hegemony thinks they broke us," she told her officers. "They think we're just dumb animals who got lucky with basic technology." She pulled up images of the prototype ship. "In 5 more years, we'll have a fleet of 30 vessels. Ships they can't see, with weapons they don't expect." Her second-in-command, Frank Wright, nodded. "How long can we keep this hidden?" "As long as we need to," Susan replied. "Humans are good at pretending. We smile at Krell while building his doom beneath his feet." Outside, hegemony patrol ships cruised the skies, their sensors sweeping for signs of resistance. They found nothing unusual, exactly as planned. 10 years had passed since the hegemony declared Earth their property. On the surface, humans remained obedient servants. Underground, the resistance grew stronger each day. Dr. Eric Mason hadn't seen the sun in 3 months. He lived and worked in the Rocky Mountain facility, now expanded into a vast complex spanning miles of underground tunnels. Today, he stood before a group of engineers, pointing at diagrams of their newest creation. The Phantom Shield works by bending light and other energy around the ship, he explained. But we kept hitting a wall with quantum detection. Kate Palmer stepped forward. After years of work, dark circles marked her eyes, but they still sparkled with excitement. "We've solved it," she announced. "By creating a field that exists partially out of phase with normal spacetime, we can make a ship completely undetectable." She activated a small model on the table. The miniature ship disappeared entirely, not even leaving a shadow. Instruments pointed at its location showed nothing but empty space. Admiral Peter Simmons nodded with approval. "When can we implement this on the U.S. Nighthawk?" "We're installing it now," Kate replied. "Testing begins next week." The Nighthawk was humanity's first full-sized stealth vessel, built piece by piece in the underground facility and assembled in a hidden crater on the far side of the moon. The hegemony had monitoring stations on the moon's near side, but considered the airless, barren far side worthless. They were wrong. Commander Olivia Grant piloted the shuttle carrying Dr. Mason and Kate Palmer to the lunar base. As a former fighter pilot, she now trained crews for the growing stealth fleet. The shuttle looked like a standard transport carrying minerals from the moon mines, but beneath its false bottom sat the scientists and crucial equipment. "Approach looks clear," Olivia said as they neared the landing zone. "No hegemony patrols today." The crater base came into view as they descended. A series of domes connected by tunnels, all colored to match the lunar surface. Unless someone flew directly overhead, it remained invisible. Inside the main dome, the Nighthawk waited. Unlike the bulky hegemony ships, it was elegant and predatory, shaped like a manta ray with swept-back wings. Its dark hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it. "She's beautiful," Kate whispered as they entered. Over the next week, they installed the Phantom Shield system. When the time came for testing, Admiral Simmons arrived from Earth to witness the event. "All systems ready," reported the ship's engineer as the crew took their positions. "Activate Phantom Shield," ordered Captain Ryan Bell, the officer chosen to command the Nighthawk. A soft hum filled the ship. On external cameras, they watched as the Nighthawk vanished from sight. Monitoring equipment showed no heat signature, no electromagnetic emissions, nothing that could be detected. "Take us out," Captain Bell ordered. The invisible ship glided out of the lunar base. Their first mission was simple but dangerous. A test run through the Saturn system, passing close to hegemony mining operations without being detected. For 3 days, the crew held their breath as they navigated past alien ships. The hegemony vessels continued their work, oblivious to the human ship in their midst. When the Nighthawk returned to the lunar base, celebrations erupted. Admiral Simmons immediately called Susan Ward. "It works," he said simply. "They never saw us." Susan allowed herself a rare smile. "How soon until the next ship is ready?" 6 months for the next 3. After that, production accelerates. Back on Earth, Commander Krell addressed world leaders at the annual compliance meeting. "The hegemony is pleased with Earth's productivity," he announced. "Your species has learned its place well." Behind Krell's back, Susan Ward exchanged glances with Alan Frost. If only the aliens knew what was happening under their noses. In a training facility beneath the Atlantic Ocean, hundreds of Earth's best pilots and crew members prepared for their roles on the new ships. Commander Olivia Grant pushed them to their limits. "The hegemony has never faced an enemy they couldn't see," she told her students. "We'll only get one chance at surprise. In secret facilities around the world, more components were built. In the asteroid belt, automated robots mined materials away from hegemony oversight. The Phantom Fleet grew ship by ship, hidden in plain sight. The sleeping giant was awakening. The secret couldn't last forever. 12 years into the occupation, a security breach threatened everything humans had built. Gregory Hunt worked as a janitor at one of the smaller research facilities in Arizona. No one paid much attention to him as he cleaned laboratories and offices. No one noticed when he stayed late, copying files and taking pictures of blueprints. Hunt had never agreed with the resistance. The hegemony brought order and advanced technology. Why fight them? Better to join the winning side. After months of gathering information, Hunt transmitted a partial data package to a hegemony communication relay. Before he could send more, security officers burst into his apartment. "Gregory Hunt, you're under arrest for treason against humanity," said the lead officer. Hunt reached for a hidden weapon, but never made it. The officers took him alive to a secure facility for questioning. Susan Ward received the news in her current headquarters beneath Detroit. "How much did he send?" she asked Alan Frost. "Not everything, but enough to raise suspicions," Alan replied grimly. "Partial schematics of the Phantom Shield and locations of 2 minor facilities. Evacuate those locations immediately," Susan ordered. "Move all personnel and equipment to backup sites." Within hours, hegemony ships descended on the exposed facilities. They found empty buildings, stripped of everything useful. Commander Krell was furious. He summoned Frank Wright, Earth's appointed human representative, to his office. "You have been hiding things from us," Krell said, his voice dangerously calm. Frank maintained a nervous, submissive posture. "Commander, I assure you, I know nothing about these facilities. Perhaps they were abandoned years ago and forgotten. Do not lie to me." Krell slammed his fist on the desk. "The Galactic Viceroy himself is sending an investigator. If humans are developing forbidden technology, the consequences will be severe." Frank bowed his head. "We will cooperate fully, Commander." Behind this show of submission, Frank immediately relayed the warning to Susan Ward. The resistance had perhaps weeks before the Viceroy's investigator arrived. "We're not ready," Admiral Simmons said during the emergency meeting. "The fleet stands at 22 ships. We need at least 30 for the plan to work." "Then we accelerate," Susan replied. "Double shifts at all facilities. Pull in every resource we can." Dr. Mason shook his head. "Quality might suffer. The Phantom Shields need precise calibration." "We don't have a choice," Susan said firmly. "The hegemony is getting suspicious. If they discover the full extent of our program, they'll bombard Earth from orbit." The next day, Krell announced new restrictions. Curfews were implemented in all cities. Hegemony patrols increased. Random searches of homes and businesses became common. In London, armed aliens dragged people from their beds, searching for signs of resistance. In Tokyo, they shut down the power grid for 3 days, claiming it was necessary for security scans. The crackdown reached its peak when Krell ordered public executions of suspected resistance members. 5 men and women were brought to a square in New Delhi, accused of sabotage. "Let this be a lesson," Krell announced as the executions were broadcast worldwide. "The hegemony's patience has limits." What Krell didn't realize was how these actions affected ordinary humans. People who had accepted alien rule now whispered in anger. Those who had stayed neutral began passing information to the resistance. Frank Wright continued his dangerous role, appearing to help the hegemony while secretly coordinating with Susan Ward. "Krell has ordered all Earth militaries to fully disarm," he reported during a secure call. "No exceptions. They're taking everything, even police weapons." "Let them," Susan replied. "Our real weapons are nearly ready." Meanwhile, Admiral Simmons moved the completed stealth ships into their final positions. Some hid in Earth orbit, using the Phantom Shields to remain undetectable. Others waited near Mars, Jupiter, and even as far as Neptune. Captain Ryan Bell, now commanding the upgraded flagship U.S. Spectre, received his sealed orders. Open only when the signal comes, Admiral Simmons told him. As the hegemony tightened its grip, humanity's hidden fist prepared to strike. The question wasn't if anymore, but when. The Viceroy's investigator was due to arrive in 1 week. The Viceroy's investigator arrived with 3 massive warships. His name was Grand Inquisitor Draz, and his reputation made even Commander Krell nervous. Draz had overseen the destruction of 2 civilizations that dared resist the hegemony. Susan Ward watched the alien ships descend from her latest hiding place in the mountains of Peru. The bunker was filled with communications equipment and tired staff officers working around the clock. "He's here earlier than expected," Alan Frost said, joining her at the view screen. "It doesn't matter now," Susan replied. "We're as ready as we'll ever be." On her tablet, she checked the status of the stealth fleet. 29 ships now, spread throughout the solar system. The last one would be operational in 3 days. Not the 30 they had planned for, but it would have to be enough. In New York, Frank Wright greeted the Grand Inquisitor with the required protocol, bowing deeply before the tall, gray-skinned alien. "Earth welcomes you, Exalted One," Frank said, keeping his eyes down as required. Draz ignored him, turning instead to Commander Krell. "Your reports suggest widespread disobedience. I find this concerning. The humans have become more difficult lately," Krell admitted, "but we are addressing it." "No," Draz said coldly. "You have failed to address it properly. The Viceroy has approved more permanent measures." Later that day, the news spread across Earth's communications networks. The hegemony had announced plans to relocate millions of humans to labor colonies on distant worlds. The troublesome elements of human society will be separated and put to better use, Draz announced. "The first transport ships will arrive in 7 days. Be honored that you will serve the hegemony among the stars." People panicked. Families tried to flee cities, only to be turned back by hegemony patrols. In some places, riots broke out, quickly put down by alien weapons that stunned entire crowds into unconsciousness. Admiral Simmons contacted Susan from his command post beneath the Pacific Ocean. "It's time," he said simply. Susan closed her eyes briefly. 12 years of preparation, and now the moment had come. "Are you sure we can't wait for the last ship?" "If we wait, we'll lose millions to these relocations," Peter replied. "We move now." Susan nodded. "Give the order." Admiral Simmons sent encrypted messages to each stealth ship. On board the U.S. Spectre, Captain Ryan Bell opened his sealed orders. "Prepare for combat operations," he told his crew. "We decloak in 6 hours." Lieutenant Kelly Morris, the ship's tactical officer, began programming the attack sequences. Her hands moved steadily, despite the weight of what they were about to do. "The hegemony has never faced anything like us," she told the nervous weapons team. "Remember your training." On Earth, Susan Ward sent a final message to all resistance cells. The code was simple. Midnight has arrived. Across the planet, hidden weapons were distributed. Resistance fighters moved into position near hegemony installations. Everything was in place. In New York, Frank Wright attended a formal dinner with Grand Inquisitor Draz. The alien was lecturing Earth's appointed officials about their failures. "Your species lacks the discipline to be proper servants," Draz said between bites of food. "Perhaps after a generation on the mining worlds, your children will prove more useful." Frank forced himself to smile. "You are wise, Exalted One." His communication device vibrated silently in his pocket. The signal. Frank excused himself to use the restroom, where he activated a small device hidden in his watch. Across the city, power fluctuations began, drawing hegemony security forces away from their ships. In space, the first human transport vessels were being prepared by the hegemony. They had been built by human hands under alien supervision, massive ships capable of carrying thousands of people in cramped conditions. The first humans were already being loaded aboard. Little did the hegemony know that these transport ships had been subtly modified during construction. On certain decks, hidden compartments contained weapons. In the engine rooms, override systems waited to be activated. As the hours ticked down, Susan Ward made her way to a secure communications center. From there, she would coordinate with Admiral Simmons during the attack. "We've lived under their boots for 12 years, she told her staff. "In 6 hours, we find out if humanity deserves to be free." Across the solar system, 29 invisible ships waited for the signal to reveal themselves. 6 hours passed with agonizing slowness. Across Earth, people waited in their homes, many unaware that this night would change everything. Captain Ryan Bell sat in the command chair of the U.S. Spectre, orbiting silently above the hegemony's main command vessel. His crew watched their stations with tense focus. They had trained for years for this moment. "1 minute to decloak," announced Lieutenant Kelly Morris. "All weapons are ready." "Ships in position?" Ryan asked. "All 29 vessels report ready, Captain," his communications officer replied. Ryan nodded. "Send the confirmation to Admiral Simmons." Deep beneath the Pacific, Admiral Simmons received the message. He looked at Susan Ward, who had joined him at the main command center. "Give the order," she said. The Admiral pressed his hand against a scanner. "Authorization, Simmons Alpha 7. Execute Operation Revelation." Across the solar system, 29 Phantom shields disengaged simultaneously. In Earth orbit, 7 stealth ships appeared around the hegemony's largest vessels. Near Mars, 5 more decloaked beside the alien refueling station. In the rings of Saturn, 3 ships materialized next to a weapons platform. The rest revealed themselves at strategic positions throughout the system. On the hegemony command ship, alarms blared as sensors suddenly detected multiple vessels where nothing had been seconds before. "Impossible," shouted a hegemony officer. "Where did they come from?" Before they could react, the U.S. Spectre fired its first shots. Weapons designed using stolen hegemony technology cut through the command ship shields like they weren't there. Captain Ryan Bell's voice broadcast on all frequencies. "This is the Earth Defense Fleet. Your occupation ends today." In New York, Grand Inquisitor Draz was rushing back to his shuttle when the sky lit up with explosions. Hegemony ships in orbit were under attack from enemies they couldn't see until it was too late. "Get me to my ship," Draz screamed at his guards. A voice called out from behind him. "Going somewhere?" Frank Wright stood with a group of resistance fighters, all holding weapons that had been hidden for years. Across Earth, similar scenes played out. Resistance cells emerged from hiding, targeting hegemony ground forces. The aliens, cut off from their orbital support, found themselves surrounded by humans who were no longer afraid. Communications specialist Diane Cooper sat at her station aboard the U.S. Nighthawk, now commanded by Commander Olivia Grant. "Broadcasting now," she announced. Her voice reached every corner of Earth as she read humanity's Declaration of Independence. "For 12 years, we endured your mockery and abuse. You called us primitive. You called us weak. Today, you learn how wrong you were." In space, the battle raged. Hegemony ships were larger and more heavily armed, but the Earth vessels were faster and had the advantage of surprise. The Nighthawk, piloted by Commander Grant, darted between enemy vessels, striking critical systems before they could respond. "Their primary weapons platform is targeting Earth," warned Kelly Morris aboard the Spectre. "Not on my watch," Captain Bell replied. "All power to forward shields. Take us in." The Spectre charged directly at the massive hegemony platform. Enemy fire crashed against their shields as they closed the distance. At the last moment, they fired all weapons at the platform's main reactor. The explosion lit up Earth's night sky like a second sun. In the command center, Admiral Simmons watched the battle unfold on dozens of screens. "Status report," he demanded. "We've disabled 7 of their capital ships," an officer replied. 4 of ours have taken damage, but all are still operational. Susan Ward studied the tactical display. "They're trying to regroup near the moon." "They won't make it," Simmons said with grim satisfaction. Strike Group 3 is already in position. 3 Earth ships appeared behind the retreating hegemony vessels, cutting off their escape. Caught in a crossfire, the alien ships began to fall one by one. On the surface, the tide turned as news of the space battle spread. Humans overwhelmed hegemony ground forces through sheer numbers. Even those who had never been part of the resistance joined the fight, grabbing whatever weapons they could find. Grand Inquisitor Draz, now a prisoner, watched in disbelief as his invincible armada crumbled before ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. "How?" he demanded. "How did you build all this under our watch?" Frank Wright smiled coldly. "You mocked our technology while we studied yours. Not so primitive now, are we?" High above, the Earth fleet pressed its advantage against the stunned hegemony forces. The initial victory was sweet but short-lived. Within hours, hegemony reinforcements arrived from nearby star systems. Massive battleships, far larger than anything seen before, emerged from faster-than-light travel near Jupiter. "They've called in their main battle fleet," Admiral Simmons announced grimly as the tactical displays updated. "At least 30 capital ships, with more arriving." Susan Ward studied the new threat. "We knew this would happen. Activate Phase 2. Across Earth, hidden defense installations powered up for the first time. Dr. Eric Mason and Kate Palmer had spent the last year of the occupation installing planetary shield generators at strategic locations around the globe. "Shields activating now," Kate reported from her control station in the Andes. "The hegemony can still land troops in some areas, but their heavy weapons can't penetrate." The new alien fleet launched its first assault against Earth, only to have their weapons dissipate against the planetary shields. Furious, they turned their attention to the human stealth fleet. "All ships, initiate scatter protocol," Admiral Simmons ordered. "Hit-and-run attacks only. Don't let them target you." The Earth vessels activated their phantom shields, disappearing from enemy sensors, then reappearing only to strike and vanish again. This tactic frustrated the hegemony commanders, but the sheer number of enemy ships made the battle increasingly difficult. Captain Ryan Bell's U.S. Spectre took heavy damage while protecting a transport evacuating civilians from a space station. "Phantom shield offline," reported his engineering officer. "We can't disappear anymore." "Then we fight in the open," Ryan replied. "All power to weapons." The Spectre engaged 3 hegemony cruisers simultaneously, its advanced weapons compensating somewhat for the loss of stealth. They destroyed one enemy ship and damaged another before a direct hit rocked the bridge. "Hull breach on decks 3 through 7. Kelly Morris reported, blood running from a cut on her forehead. "We need to withdraw." Ryan nodded grimly. "Get us to the rally point." On Earth's surface, the battle against occupation forces turned into a global uprising. Paul Martinez, who had spent years building a network of resistance cells, coordinated attacks against hegemony ground troops. "They're falling back in Europe and Asia," Paul reported to Susan Ward. "But they're landing reinforcements in Africa and South America." The battle for Earth's freedom raged for 3 days without pause. In space, human ships fought with desperate courage against overwhelming numbers. Some vessels were lost with all hands. Others limped back to hidden bases for repairs. Commander Olivia Grant's Nighthawk led a daring raid against the hegemony's main communications array near Venus. "Without this, they can't coordinate their fleet," she told her crew before the mission. The Nighthawk and 2 companion ships struck fast and hard, destroying the array but losing one of their escorts in the process. As they turned to escape, a hegemony dreadnought cut off their retreat. "We can't outrun it," Olivia's navigator warned. "We don't need to," Olivia replied. "We just need to outfight it." What followed became legend among Earth's defenders. The Nighthawk, smaller and outgunned, used Venus's thick atmosphere as cover, diving in and out of the clouds to strike at the massive enemy ship. For 2 hours they played this deadly game until the dreadnought's engines finally exploded. The Nighthawk emerged victorious but severely damaged. As they limped away, Olivia sent a simple message to Admiral Simmons. Venus is clear. Long live Earth. The final battle came at Jupiter's moons. The remaining hegemony forces gathered for one massive assault. 15 Earth ships, all that could still fight, assembled to meet them. Captain Bell, his ship patched together after the earlier damage, joined the formation. "This is where we hold the line," he told his weary crew. "Everything we fought for comes down to this moment." Admiral Simmons addressed the fleet from his flagship. The hegemony thought we were weak. They thought we were primitive. Today we prove what humans can do when pushed too far. As the enemy fleet approached, Susan Ward watched from Earth Command, surrounded by tired staff officers. "We've lost so many," she whispered. Admiral Simmons nodded. "But we haven't lost Earth. And we won't." The two fleets clashed among Jupiter's moons, their weapons turning the night into day. Captain Bell's tactics proved decisive, using the moon's gravity to slingshot Earth ships into attack positions the hegemony couldn't predict. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the stars shone on a field of drifting wreckage and a battered but undefeated Earth fleet. 3 weeks after the Battle of Jupiter, a hegemony diplomatic vessel approached Earth under a flag of truce. Its arrival caused tense debate among Earth's leaders, now gathered in the rebuilt United Nations building. "It could be a trap," warned Paul Martinez, newly appointed as Earth's security chief. "Our sensors detect only the one ship, minimal weapons," Admiral Simmons replied. "I believe they're serious about talking." Susan Ward, now serving as Earth's provisional president, made the final decision. "Let them land, but keep our fleet at ready status." The hegemony vessel landed in the same spot where Commander Krell had first set foot on Earth 12 years earlier. This time, the aliens who emerged were not conquerors but diplomats, their postures humble and cautious. "I am Envoy Taller, representing the Galactic Hegemony Council," said the lead alien. "We wish to discuss terms of peace." Inside the conference room, Taller placed a data crystal on the table. "The Council has authorized me to offer these terms. We will withdraw all forces from your solar system. We will recognize Earth's independence. We ask only for an end to hostilities." Admiral Simmons studied the alien carefully. "The mighty hegemony sues for peace. That's quite a change from calling us primitive apes." Toller's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of discomfort. "The Council has reassessed its position regarding Earth. Your phantom shield technology and your tactics have proven impressive." What Toller didn't say, but Earth's intelligence had already discovered, was that the hegemony faced rebellions on 3 other worlds following news of Earth's success. The Empire was overstretched and couldn't afford another costly war. "We will consider your proposal," Susan said formally, "but our terms will include reparations for 12 years of occupation and recognition of our right to expand to nearby star systems." The negotiations lasted 5 days. Captain Ryan Bell and Commander Olivia Grant, now heroes to the people of Earth, provided security. Frank Wright, with his years of experience dealing with the hegemony, served as chief negotiator alongside Susan Ward. On the final day, the peace treaty was signed. Earth gained not only freedom but recognition as a sovereign power with rights to colonize 10 nearby star systems. The hegemony agreed to pay reparations in the form of technology transfers and to establish trade relations on equal terms. As the alien delegation departed, Admiral Simmons joined Susan Ward on the observation deck. "Did you ever think we'd get here?" he asked quietly. Susan shook her head. "Not 12 years ago, when they first arrived. But humans are stubborn. We always have been." Across Earth, people celebrated their newfound freedom. Cities damaged in the fighting were rebuilt. Hegemony technology was adapted for peaceful uses. The planet united as never before, with old national rivalries set aside in favor of a global government. 6 months after the peace treaty, Earth received its first visitors from beyond the hegemony. Representatives of the Krith Confederacy, a loose alliance of worlds on the edge of hegemony space, arrived seeking alliance. "Your victory has inspired us," their ambassador explained to Susan Ward. "For centuries, the hegemony has dominated this sector of the galaxy. Now others see that they can be defeated." The Phantom Alliance was born that day, a union of Earth and 7 other worlds, seeking to create a more just and equal galactic community. With Earth's stealth technology shared among trusted allies, the balance of power shifted dramatically. Captain Ryan Bell, now Admiral Bell, led the first diplomatic mission to the Phantom Alliance worlds aboard the rebuilt U.S. Spectre. Commander Olivia Grant took command of Earth's defense fleet. Kate Palmer and Eric Mason continued their research, developing new technologies that kept Earth at the forefront of innovation. In a quiet ceremony 1 year after the victory, Susan Ward unveiled a memorial to those who had fallen in the struggle for freedom. Standing before the crowd, she spoke words that would be remembered for generations. "The hegemony mocked our technology, our capabilities, and our resolve. They believed we would submit forever. They never understood what makes humans different. We endure, we adapt, and when pushed too far, we fight back." John Carter, the communications specialist who had first detected the alien signal 15 years earlier, stood at the back of the crowd. Now in his 60s, he watched as a fleet of Earth ships rose into the evening sky, heading for the stars. Ships he had helped make possible by his vigilance so many years ago. As darkness fell, Earth looked to the future, no longer alone, no longer mocked, but standing proud among the stars.